years, everything I drew with an ink, I inked it with a Bic pen, like a 25-cent Bic pen. This is like the cheapest, most wonderful tool for drawing comics or even illustrative art, whatever. Art designers, whatever, layout, writing your homework. This is a great pen. It's better than other ballpoint pens for some reason. They got the formula right. It goes really smooth. It doesn't skip a bunch. It's pretty reliable. And if you press hard, you get a strong line. You press lightly, you get a very light, thin line, like a hairline. And you see people do wonderful crosshatch drawings with this, like Frank Cho. Check him out on Instagram. Look at Frank Cho's crosshatching. That's done with a pen, a ballpoint pen. And quite often it's a Bic pen. He uses the round stick pens, the white ones. It's the same thing inside. I like these guys because it's an octagon, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a sextagon, and it's easier for me to hold. Why am I talking to you about a pen? Because today I need to ink something, and I have all these options. If you were born in the 21st century, then when you talk about inking, you're talking about grabbing one of these guys, yeah? And you've got your favorite program, and there's your pen tip, your brush tip, everything. There's your eraser. This is everything from a hairline to an airbrush. And you work on a controlled palette here, and you've got your hotkeys, and you're like switching super fast and intuitively between pen, brush, eraser, pen, brush, eraser. Select, grab, move, expand, fix that, move the nose a little bit. Oh, I move this, I adjust this. The eyes don't line up. Grab one eye, move it just a little bit. Oh, now the face is perfectly symmetrical, yay! Moving on down to like, easy, right? Wonderful. I love it. I don't do that. I don't do that. What I do is, because I was born in the 20th century, I still use pieces of wood with carbon and compressed coal that the dinosaurs shit out millions of years ago. I guess the dinosaurs just crapped out coal from all I know. I didn't pay attention to that day in class. Now you can, sometimes I do it with a ball fountain pen, and the Safari is the best one. $25, and so many artists on Instagram are using these for their sketchbooks and everything. This guy is so reliable. It will leak a little bit on an airplane, but if you throw it in your backpack and run around for the month, running all over Tunisia or whatever, it will not leak. It will be reliable, and it's cheap, and the refills are cheap. The best drawing pen for artists right there. This is a fine tip. And you'll see a lot of working mainstream artists using brush pens like this. And it's not because necessarily they're manga influenced. You know, this is really coming from Japan, this stuff. In a matter of fact, does this one even, yeah, made in Japan. The reason is because you can just go nonstop. You're not messing with a bottle of ink and the mess and the dipping and the rolling the brush and getting it just pointed again. You get your brush point and you go for it. And yeah, these come in all sizes. They're fantastic. There's probably a handful of your favorite artists are using this as their main tool. I don't really use it. I haven't found one that I can use that doesn't dry and skip and stuff like that. I know, I'm being kind of picky, aren't I? If you're using the microns and all these kind of guys, that's cool. But the problem is that what you get is an exact line. So now if you want fatter lines, you either go to a fatter point, or you double up on your lines, or you're trying to do it with your pressure. But these don't respond real well to pressure. They pretty much stay in their ballpark of what they say that their weight is. So if you draw with one of these, it's going to look more architectural. It's going to look more like straight lines and more exacting. So you need to be on your game about your target areas. Like the window is going to look like a window. You can't just fake it. You got to actually draw a window because you have a fine liner. Things like that. So it's not the best for just being impressionistic or whatever. This is for being exact and being more of an illustrator, cartoonist with you're drawing every line of the body, you know, every line of the belt, that kind of stuff. Good detail work. Okay, so what do? I prefer the brush. The reason is because in the 20th century, the hallmark of cartooning was Disney comics way back in the middle of the century, starting in the 40s. And all that stuff, you see all those old cartoons, they were all inked with brushes. And then in the 60s, when they got to cartoons on TV, they started working faster. Then those guys would go start switching to pens and copy machines and things like that, everything they could think of. But the hallmark standard for everything Disney illustrated back then, when they were known for their art, was brush. So when I got interested, I was going to quit the band that I was in my 20s, and I wanted to start cartooning. And there was a local guy who was retired from Disney, and he taught this 13-week cartoon course. And one of the entire classes was devoted to how to use a brush. And everything he taught me is what I use today. He was not kidding. He told us exactly what we needed to do and how to use it and how to get it pointed and how to work it and all that. So I'm going to do it today. I'm going to ink this. I'm holding this because sometimes when I want to get into the middle of a picture, like the eye, I can do it with a brush, but it's going to have to be a little bit bigger area. The brush has a limitation on how low I can go and still make circles and little fine lines. This guy has no limitation. It can get right in there and do that pupil and that little white highlight, all that kind of stuff like that. But when you want to talk about getting down to hairlines, I can get a #1 brush like this and get it pointed, and I can do as fine a hairline as this guy. So these are really versatile. They have a lot of variable line width. Let me show you this. I gotta put these two side by side. This is the original thing, the real deal of everything this is copying. This thing, it took scientists millions of years to figure out how to get this to imitate this piece of wood with some hair in it. Let that sink in. So yeah, let's use a piece of wood to ink the drawing. Okay, so what I'm doing here is this is a Xerox of a pencil. I penciled this up and I scanned it, the pencil, and then I resized it. The pencil drawing is probably that tall. And I resized it to this height so I could put it on a sheet of 11 by 17. And I'm just gonna stick it right in the middle of it. So basically, this is, if I was working on Wacom, this is my first layer that I'm drawing in blue or gray, whatever. This is that first layer you use when you do all the wild strokes and make all your gestures, and here's all the rough stuff. And now what I'm gonna do is, with the old 20th century version, use a lightbox method to simulate the second layer on top of this one, where you take your brush and on the black lines and start inking on top of that. So every time you watch a digital artist do their blue pencil work on their first layer and then go to the second layer and start inking it, we're doing this exact same thing here. And instead of an expensive Mac computer, an expensive Wacom tablet, I have a $45 Lightbox, 2 sheets of paper, and a $15 brush. Think about that when you're struggling to afford the art rig you want. You don't need that beautiful art rig that involves all this computer technology. You can do it with these tools of the earth. And they did it for thousands of years. So, all right. I'm gonna switch the camera to look over my shoulder. Let's do this. Oh, unless you want to see me. Here's what I'll be using. I'll be using Pelican ink, and I put it into this. I put the Pelican ink into this bowl here to about that high. And when I dip my brush, I dip it in about halfway, pull it like this, and then I go over to a piece of scratch paper and I pull the brush into a round, sharp point. I do that every time I have to re-dip the ink. That's the hassle that you have to do, but it's how you control your brush point. I have 1 coffee cup for water, that's going to be the inking water, and 1 coffee cup full of water that is just for the whiteout. If you ask me when you get finished inking, how do you cover up a mistake? You use this whiteout. You get a separate brush, dip it in there. It's like white. It's pretty thick, and you can put it straight on, dab it on there with a brush, and it'll totally cover the black line. And you can also do effects with these, like you can dry the brush out a little bit and do it, and it'll make like a splatter, a white splatter look, a graduated look on the black areas like that. You'll see a lot of that kind of technique off of classic comics, Will Eisner stuff, Johnny Romita, all those guys were using black ink and whiteout to do their comics. So when you're looking at classic Marvel comics, that's where you're getting those effects from. Even Todd McFarlane and Frank Miller were using ink and whiteout in the 90s for those great graphic novels that they did. They weren't using Wacoms then. I was around in the 90s, and it was Photoshop 2.0, you know, and the digital tablet stuff didn't come around until, like, I don't know, 2000 or something. But they weren't using digital for like Batman Returns or The Dark Knight or Sin City. That's this stuff, this earthy stuff. So yeah, and it's a lot cheaper. I'm just saying, if you're in college and on a budget, or if you're in your 20s and you know, in a rent place and your money is tight with a day job and you want to draw your ass off and try to get into comics, use the earthy tools because they're cheap and available to you. When you learn on this, you can fly on this later when you get one. Trust me. The only thing you have to learn is the left-hand buttons, how to switch the modes, but you'll just be flying on this later. But if you're on a budget and say you have $200 and you get your first job at Marvel and they want you to draw a comic, can you have the pages to us in 3 weeks? No, you don't get in advance. And you don't have the money to go buy a Mac and a Wacom tablet and all that kind of stuff. Photoshop, it requires a subscription now. Yeah, go to the art store. Spend about $150. You're set. You'll have the exact same tools that Frank Miller and all the classic guys had for all their great work. And to be honest, if you turned in inked pages to your editor, they would probably plot, and they would love you for it. You see? Plus, here's the other thing, and here maybe is a big deal. You do this, what do you have? The final product is a PDF, a JPEG. You can't sell a JPEG. When I finish this, When I finish this, I will have an 11 by 17 cover that's going to sell for $2,000 or more. I can't sell a JPEG of this, but I can sell the original. And that's how artists supplement their living. It's the job, the job to draw the comic, and then you produce that original art, and then you go to the shows, and you're not trying to live off of selling $3 comics with a signature. You're living off of selling your art. So you have your publisher income, and then you have the art income. It's two different things. And if you're a good artist, your art will fly off the table. People would love to have your original drawing of Daredevil or whatever, you know. So that's why you go to the trouble to make paper art, so you can sell it. That's part of your income. That's why some of these artists are fabulously rich, and they have actually been known to drive a car that's paid for. Okay, that's enough snarky. Let's draw. Okay, hey, I gotta show you something. I'm out for a walk and the house is for lease, Margie's house. And you say, what do you mean Margie's house? Whose house is that? I don't recognize it. You don't recognize it from Strangers in Paradise? Look at this. You know what's in the back of Margie's house? Ta-da! The garage apartment. Margie's house has the garage apartment in the back where Kachu and Francine were living. There it is. Did you know it's a real place? Uh-huh. Very cool. Right up there on that porch is where Kachu had a couple of really good moments. I can just see her on the porch every time, leaning on the rail, giggling. So it's very cool.